Okay, welcome to our regular board meeting for District 2 on Wednesday, October 18, 2023 at 6:30 PM. Call to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Dye?
Here.
Mrs. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Laudadio?
Here.
Mrs. Leyva?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Parthamos?
Here.
Mr. Stoltman?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Pledge of allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment. Do you have anything?
We do not have any public
We have
comment.
no public comment, so we're moving on. Celebrations.
Sure, we have one celebration today that encompasses a large number of our employees. A number of our staff, it's Employee Appreciation Month for our bus drivers, our custodian and maintenance, our lunch supervisors, our physical therapists, and our favorite principals that are here with us tonight. So we have a quick celebration video just to highlight our staff and the great work that they do. Maybe. If we can get it to play.
We're gonna go a different direction, how about that? My apologies.
And food service.
Love the sombrero. So I just want to personally thank our staff for their hard work and dedication to our district.
Great, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, presentations, school improvement plans.
Sure, so tonight we have our principals here with us to review their school improvement plans. Their school improvement plans are directly aligned to our strategic plan. This year is our second year of our 5-year strategic plan. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ann, and she's going to start us off.
All right, so as you'll be hearing, the school improvement plans are aligned to the district's strategic plan, which is centered around our mission, our motto, and our shared vision for our students. And just a reminder of the core beliefs that we identified as the foundation for all that we do and that are represented throughout our strategic plan. We have 4 key strategic priorities, as well as diversity and social emotional well-being, being incorporated in all decision-making, not being isolated but woven throughout. This evening, the school improvement plans will center around the first 2 strategic priorities. The first one, we will engage all students with diverse learning experiences from an appropriately aligned and challenging curriculum. We'd like to start with Carlos Patino from W.A. Johnson.
All right,
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having us this evening. We have 2.5 minutes per slide, so we're going to do our best here. So our first, if you look at our strategic objective, this actually came from Dr. McCluskey. When you're leading a school of over 100 staff, 625 students, being everywhere all the time to support students and staff is very challenging. So this year what we've done as an administrative team is focus myself more as the K-2 focus, and Saul Melendez, my assistant principal, is more of the 3-5 focus. That is for us to be present in their classrooms. That is for us to be present in their professional learning meetings. It is for us to better understand their curriculum, their instruction, their students, their needs. And that has been a big change for us this year. Last year we tried to be everywhere all the time. It spread us very thin. This helps us to be a lot more focused within those grade levels, become more experts within those grade level bands, support the teachers, be present, which was something from our 5 Essentials survey, which was an area of growth for us certainly. And we also align all of our staff evaluations to that as well. So I am focusing myself specifically within the K-2 band to evaluate those staff, those paraprofessionals. I'm at their meetings, their grade levels, and all of our district level foci that we have, whether it's high quality math tasks, whether it is authentic communication, Lexia, or each of the teachers' goals for their own growth. We are very, very narrowly focused on those to best support our teachers. And that's an area of growth for ourselves too. I am not the most K-2 person. I was more of a 5th grade teacher, so it helps push my thinking and my leadership as well. The second thing you'll notice from us is professional learning communities continues to be an area of growth for us, which is when we're in those meetings, it is getting around cycles of data with our teachers around our professional learning forums, which is our teachers looking at data from their instruction and from our NWA data so that we see our students that are exceeding, that are meeting, and are below, so that we can best support, again, those teachers and our students. It is also a way to help them with their planning so that we are on the front end to help them plan for their instruction as well, because without solid planning, you're kind of hoping to reach your goals. So that helps us as well. And then the last thing as well is using our MTSS structures and our district structures to streamline our professional learning for our teachers and our staff so that everything is very concrete, clear, and that is using those powerful learning structures to support our staff. And that's aligning everything to our early release Tuesday so that everything we focus on those previously aforementioned foci are aligned to our early release Tuesdays. Our Teacher Institute days are very focused around that. We have now 2 staff meetings a month which focus on this to help us. And our after-school BUs, our Bentonville University professional development, is all very aligned, clearly focused to be collaborative with our teachers and support those teachers.
Thank you as well for letting me present on Tioga's school improvement plan for next year. I really want to highlight that although I'm presenting this plan, this is really the creation of the collaborative work that we have had, Ms. Soik and myself with our PLC coaches, our grade level leaders as well. So we started our school year in the summer, in August, where all of our PLC coaches came in for a meeting. And the first thing that we did is we reviewed last year's school improvement plan. And we had a conversation about, what went well, what are some areas that we wanted to focus in on, but perhaps we didn't focus enough on, and then what are some new ideas that we wanted to implement for this year as a school. So we're really trying to take not only that servant leadership approach, but also that collaborative approach as well. So you will certainly see several similarities between Tioga and Johnson. Last year we really emphasized an administrative collaboration between the 2 buildings. Last year we had meetings every 2 weeks, and we're continuing with that practice of regular meetings this year as well. We want our students at both schools to learn, to grow, and to have that similar experience as well. So one of the things we're really focusing in on is the building of capacity and knowledge around our cycles of inquiry. That's our work with UIC and the district math leadership team. We're really trying to focus in on a problem of practice related to math, analyzing data associated with that, implementing an intervention or an instructional approach, and then evaluating the impact that that instructional approach has on growth. So that's that cycle. We are in that process as an administrative team, really learning and digging deep into that cycle of inquiry, all those different phases. And our goal is to bring that information back to our PLC coaches, we have teacher leadership, that will help us implement that in the spring. And our goal this year is to implement one cycle of inquiry with our instructional team, our leadership team, so that we can continue to develop that capacity next year as well. So that's a new goal for this year, a new thing that we're emphasizing. Similar to Johnson and what Carlos shared, we're also trying to be very targeted and strategic with the professional learning that we're providing all staff in our building. Not just our certified staff, but also our classified staff as well. To do that, we've been partnering with the Department of Teaching and Learning to survey our staff, both certified and classified, on what those areas of needs that they're noticing in order to further develop their skills in math, literacy, authentic communication, all of those really high impact strategies. So we're really excited. We have one of those coming up, an instructional staff meeting coming up this week. We actually met with Ann this afternoon, and we're going to be focusing in on math fluency, in administering that, as well as our authentic communication. So trying to be very responsive with that as well. We're also really pleased to be able to have Chris Stalzer on our team at Tioga full-time as our student services coordinator. Part of our work is we're really leading as a whole building administrative team to make sure that we're providing support to all of our staff members. And she's really taken on the professional goal of even working with our classified staff, really focusing even more strategically there as well around some additional professional learning. Similar to what Carlos shared regarding Johnson, we too have worked closely to align ourselves with grade levels. We were very mindful at both schools that, if a grade level band has a principal from one school, we wanted to make sure that the assistant principal at the other school is partnering as well. So that there's an assistant principal and a principal working in a grade level band, K2 and 3-5, so that we can continue with that collaboration. We've really seen the fruits of that work pay off in terms of our early data analysis. At the beginning of the school year, we pulled math data, both in math as well as reading, and we've been able to work with each grade level to look at how are our students doing that are at the 0 to 20th percentile, 20th to 40th percentile, all the way up to 80th and 100th percentile. We're really focusing in on those conversations of how do we move all students forward. We're not just pulling up our students that need the most support, we're also extending it for those students that are ready for that enrichment and ready for that rigor as well. So we're excited to continue those conversations, not just at the grade level, but also talking about that as a whole staff. One of the other elements that we're incorporating is how to have safe data conversations within each of those grade level teams as well. So we're really proud of the early work that we've done. We know there's a lot more work to do around our curriculum goals for this year, but we feel like we're off to a really good start with that overall. I'll turn it over to Perry now to speak about the middle school.
Good evening, everybody. Just like my colleagues here said, thanks for allowing us to come in and talk about plans that we have for this year. Like my elementary principal friends talked about restructuring their administrative efforts, we have a very exciting new administrative team at Blackhawk that has an assistant principal that is dedicated to curriculum instruction and assessment, as well as an assistant principal that's dedicated to social emotional learning. So it really allows us to target the needs of our students and support our staff in a new and unique way. So far the year is off to a great start with allowing us to focus in some specific areas with that. As far as what we are looking to incorporate this particular year, in our PLC conversations, when we have our grade level department conversations, we want to be moving beyond just talking about the data that we are collecting from our students and talking about what we're going to be doing differently in our instruction from that data. So that is something that we will be focusing on this year using the PLC forms that the district has provided us that will allow us to structure conversations throughout the district based upon the data that we're gathering from our students. We also are very blessed with having a double period, a block of math, as well as ELA. And we've been working, this is our second year in working on maximizing that 90-minute period in order to meet the needs of all of our students. So in ELA and math right now, we've got 60 minutes of that block is dedicated to what we call core time, which is the new skills that are based upon the grade level standards that we'll be teaching our students. And then the last half hour of that block is something we're calling more time, which allows us to meet the needs of students that are not quite there yet and those that are there yet. So we can incorporate interventions for students that need additional support, but also enrichment for our students that are already there so that we can meet the needs of all of our students wherever they might be within the core instruction time of our day. The last piece is, my friends here mentioned some of the work with UIC regarding high-quality tasks. At the middle school, this type of professional development is not really reaching all of our teachers because not all of the middle school teachers teach math because we are departmentalized. So one of the things that we have been doing for the past decade is instructional rounds, where we pick a problem of practice and go into our classrooms and see what's going on in there, report back to our staff, try to improve in a particular area. This year we're going to be talking about the high-quality tasks that UIC is talking about with specifically our math teachers. And we'd like that to intentionally spill into our other content areas so that all of our teachers can learn about what a high-quality task is so that all of our content areas can be using some of these things that we're learning from UIC, and it won't be just specific to our math teachers. So that will be something that we'll be doing through our instructional round process, which our staff over the years has really been receptive to, not just wanting to be a part of it, but also wanting to hear the feedback that their colleagues gather as they go into classrooms, and we share those things out.
Okay, the next strategic priority the principals will be speaking to is we develop and maintain a positive climate and culture to meet the needs of all stakeholders. So Johnson?
So thanks. Again, one of the main pieces from this has been our 5 essentials climate and culture survey that our staff, all staff take, and the results were good, not great. So looking at some areas where we need to improve and focus on is definitely communication. So that is anytime that we have our leadership meeting with our professional learning community coaches, we are sending that communication out. We are sending weekly communication out to all of our staff so they are well informed of all of our priorities and our foci. Again, communicating with families as well has been another thing as well, sending out our monthly bulletin, our SMORE, so that we are not bombarding families with communication and you are getting the most streamlined, clear communication as possible. So that has been a big piece. This year we have a new improved evaluation process. Evaluation can be a stressful thing for teachers, it could be a stressful thing for parents, it could be a stressful thing for evaluators too. So we have an improved process this year that is more collaborative, that allows for more of a dialogue to happen between the evaluator and the teacher or staff, so it feels more of a conversation versus a fixed process that here's your evaluation, here's your areas of growth. It's more of a conversation. I think that will be incredibly helpful. The aforementioned presence within classrooms and grade level bands has already yielded greater presence from us. That will help us because being distant does not build trust. And we also have a text that we are using this year called Next Level Teaching. That text is a pretty great book by an author named Jonathan Alzheimer who came and presented during the Institute days. In that book, we are focusing on monthly, and we are having some pretty deep conversations around culture and climate, around how we as the adults, not just administrators, create the culture and climate within a school, but the teachers and the paraprofessionals have great power within their choice of how they impact students daily. So we've been having very honest conversations. Those are conversations that not just teachers are invited to monthly, but our paraprofessionals are a part of as well, so that their voice is there as well. That is definitely an area of growth for us as well, giving our staff shout outs and continuing to leverage to the community our PTA, who has been fundamental to our communication to our community, has been a great conduit to connect to our community with our events, whether it's the Fall Fest, our popsicles, and future events that we have with our PTA to help us continue to connect with our community.
Again, at Tioga, you'll see some similarities across both of the schools. We're also continuing to publish our monthly newsletter and distribute that to families via SMORE. One of our big emphases this year, though, is how do we incorporate more student voice? So as we think about all these different areas in which we're working with staff or we're highlighting things that are happening at the school, we're always pushing back with our staff to say, how can we incorporate or how can we have students be a part of this process? And so as we continue to develop our monthly family newsletters, we would expect our parents will notice that we'll start to incorporate some additional student voice throughout that as well. We're also going to be surveying parents in the next 2 weeks to give feedback on our family bulletin as well. We have lots of things that are in there, but we want to make sure we're including information that is most pertinent, helpful, and just overall what parents are looking for from the school as well. So we're excited to get that feedback and to make changes, adjustments, or just affirm that the information is still really important for parents in there as well. Similar to Johnson, we've gotten some great work on our next level of teaching. This is really the first all-staff read that we've conducted in my time within Bensenville District 2. And we could not have asked for a better text that does speak to the importance of each of the individuals in building the culture. You know, all of our actions, all of the things that we do on a daily basis will build a culture or sustain a culture that perhaps we don't want to have or don't want to be a part of here as well. We've already worked through 2 chapters of the next level teaching through our staff meetings, and we've done 2 activities that were highly engaging for our staff. One activity, we asked the students we've asked the staff to write down what is one risk that they're willing to take this year in terms of building that culture at Tioga. And they wrote it on a post-it, on a note card. We have those in a jar in our offices that we're going to bring at the end of the school year to have staff reflect back on, this is what we said we would be committing to or taking a risk for. How did we do? Did we go beyond the risk that we were going to take? And then the last staff meeting, the chapter really talked a lot about forgettable and unforgettable teachers. And so we asked our staff to highlight the attributes of an unforgettable teacher, and then we actually asked them to shout out the name of an unforgettable teacher that they had when they went through school. So it was a really powerful staff meeting where we were able to engage with that text. We're also incorporating staff recognitions and shout outs through our weekly staff bulletin. We send a monthly bulletin to our families, but we do a weekly bulletin with our staff. And it's always the first part of our staff bulletin where we highlight shout outs, and that's shout outs from staff. So it's staff members to staff members. And what we've noticed is there's a lot of teachers that are giving shout outs to each other, but there's an equally high percentage of teachers that are giving shout outs to our classified paraprofessionals as well. Because that's a group that does so much for our students, so much for our school. But sometimes they don't always get that same level of recognition or feeling like they're being recognized. So that's been a fabulous element that we've been able to incorporate this year. Another thing that we're really focusing in on, again, is making sure that our staff have professional learning topics that are relevant, pertinent, and timely to what they're working on with students and embedded as part of their job. So we think if staff members feel that they're receiving that professional learning, they're going to be more empowered and they're going to have a better impact on the climate, culture, and school in general. And then the last focus that we're having for the climate and culture is really more on the parent support. We do have some different communication platforms. We have Power School Parent Portal. We want to make sure that our families are able to access all of that information in as seamless a way as possible. And so we're providing targeted opportunities at curriculum night as well as parent-teacher conferences for parents to have an instructional technology specialist to be able to talk to if there are any questions or if they need any support with navigating those different platforms. So yeah, we're excited. We have set these goals based upon feedback again from our PLC coaches, but also from our 5 Essentials data analysis that we did with coaches as well. So these again are a snapshot of where we were at the beginning of the school year. We do revisit all of our school improvement plans at least 3 times a year. So right around Thanksgiving or winter break, we'll be checking in with our PLC coaches, and we'll be basically taking stock of where are we now? Are we where we thought we would be? If we are, great, let's continue. If we're not, well, why not? Where is it that we need to then switch gears or add in a different element to maintain our focus on our goals? I'll turn it over to Blackhawk and Perry to talk about their goals.
So we too have got a monthly s'more letter that we send out to our families. It's called the Blackhawk Banner. We also send out, in between those monthly communications to our families, we do send out a weekly piece that is less comprehensive, but is more of based upon weekly occurrences that either are coming up or things that have happened. Jeff, I love the idea of the survey. I made a note of that. I'm going to be reaching out to families because we do tend to communicate a lot and to get some feedback on if that communication is what is meeting the needs of our families. So I will be stealing that one, Mr. Kirsten, thank you. I would like to say something about our Blackhawk Banner. There's a piece that we've done for the past 2 years called the Blackhawk Alumni Spotlight. And I don't know if you've seen this piece or not, but it's where we reconnect with somebody that is an alumni member of Blackhawk, and they get to tell a little bit of a story about when they were at Blackhawk. They've all usually gone through Fenton and then where they are now. And it's just a very nice way to let our families and our students see that there's life beyond Blackhawk, and people that went to our school are doing great things out there. I'll share one really quick anecdote. I was at Tire Man about 2 months ago, and a guy came out from the back and he looked at me and he said, "Blackhawk." And I said, "Yes." And I said, "You must have gone there." And he did, and then I got him the link, and he was the first one in the September issue. So it's just a great way to continue to foster the belonging at Blackhawk, and even though you've left, you're still part of our community. Just as Jeff had mentioned about the celebration of accomplishments and shout-outs, we do that at our staff meetings as well. This is something that has become so popular that I usually have to shut it off at a certain point, otherwise our whole staff meeting would be me reading off this list of things that our staff is saying about each other, which is really just nice to see. And we also have classified staff members that are being recognized quite regularly by our staff, so it's nice to see that that's going on. It's also part of our piece is not just shout-outs, but announcements. So it gives our staff an opportunity to share things that are going on in their life, and it builds more of a sense of family with our staff. And it's nice to hear people cheer when people have good news that they're sharing. It's a very nice way to start out our morning. We have a weekly communication with staff as well that we will continue to be sending out. This is something that goes beyond our weekly PLC notes that we send out from our grade level lead meeting that we have. So it gives us a chance to share some things, go a little bit deeper, or predict some things that might be coming down the road a little bit further, or even just share some things that we didn't communicate with grade level leads that we want our teachers to just be aware of. So we will continue on with that. That's been an effective thing. Also, we're obviously doing next level teaching, and I would echo what my colleagues have said. The staff has really taken to this, and I like the fact that, like, we just talked about what you can do outside of the classroom in order to affect what goes on in the classroom. You know, just what are things that you can do, just saying hello to kids, being at basketball games, being in the cafeteria, just being around. And we have also given staff the opportunity to share back things that then we collectively put back into that would be something in the admin brief that I would share out, what our staff said, at these different share out opportunities. But the thing that I think has been most interesting is the degree of communication and, like we asked them to pull a quote, we asked them to bring the book and pull a quote based upon a specific topic. And the participation at 7 o'clock in the morning is just incredible for our staff to be just so into the culture of our school. And I think that the takeaway from the book is the culture of our school is our culture. And we can either live with that or we can try to change it and improve it. And I think our staff at Blackhawk is realizing that we want to try to make it as best as we can. And this tool is something that I think is opening up good conversations for us.
Right, so as you can see, our principals have really embraced our strategic plan, have really dove into the work. I applaud the work that they're doing, the focus that they're putting on data conversations. I think that that is something that is really new to the district, is having such a focus on data and making those informed decisions for the individual needs of students. And so I applaud each of our principals for really being dedicated to this work and making some really good change within their schools.
Thank you, guys.
Any questions, guys? Anybody got questions?
I just had a question regarding the evaluations. Do our teacher evaluations include observations?
Yes, they do. If they are non-tenured teachers, they have 2 formal observation and 1 informal.
Okay.
If they are tenured but on cycle, they would have 1 formal, 1 informal. If they are off cycle, they would just have 1 informal. But
Okay.
again, that's those classrooms. And again, that's where that focus within the K2 or the 3-5, as Jeff alluded to, as well as really helping us to be in those classrooms before that evaluation. So we're getting to see and understand, again, their instruction, their kids, their curriculum, and just be able to provide better feedback to them.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, as an HR professional, I really appreciate and value that, especially being able to give the employee an opportunity to be part of their review and to share their own feedback and what they've seen in their own growth and development. So, thank you.
Good, any other questions?
I do have a question. This is more for Blackhawk. So now that we're kind of taking this data-driven focus, how are we planning to use that data to, I guess, help better prepare our students for transitioning to Fenton?
Well, I think that the communication with Fenton has increased in order for us to be aware of what our students will be needing in order to be effective and successful there. So I think that, I know that Dr. Panessa has had conversations with what their curricular offerings are versus ours in order to better prepare our students. And we actually got we've got 2 students that go to Fenton for a class this year. And that is some evidence of the communication that we're having in order to increase the offerings that we are giving our students in order to prepare them for their high school career. And I'd also say for our 8th grade parents, we have the PSAT coming up on the 28th, and we're hoping to get as many of our 8th grade students to be taking that as possible, so that gives Fenton another data point on where our students are, so that they can effectively schedule them so that they can have the best career path possible in their high school.
Thank you.
I think that's a lot of the work that we're doing now, is really that articulation from elementary to middle and then middle to high school, so that we have a strong articulation of coursework. So when we think about math, we have our ACE classes, we have our regular track math, and making sure that all of that aligns when they get to Fenton and that there are courses for them. So Dr. Panessa is also doing a lot of work with their curriculum department so that we make sure that we have that alignment, and our middle school teachers and the Fenton teachers are also getting together to have conversations to make sure we're not duplicating novels that they're reading or duplicating, math courses, so that we really do have a strong pathway to Fenton, but then after Fenton as well.
Can I just make a comment? First of all, you guys are doing an awesome job. I do want to make a comment that one of I was one of the people in the strategic plan that was stressing making sure that we're not only focusing on our students that are at risk or underperforming, but also those that are needing a more enrichment. And I want to say, as a parent, not as a board member right now, my son came home and told me that he started getting pulled out of his regular class and put into ACE enrichment because his teacher, well, after talking to Ms. Lee, his teacher said that he needed more enrichment, and so she put him in there. I was ecstatic about that and very appreciative because I know he needed the enrichment. And for you guys to start focusing in on that, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that too, at the middle school, like, just in case you want to do any extra.
Yeah. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
I do too.
Anything else, guys? Thank you so much, guys. Great job. Appreciate
I
it.
have another question. No, I don't. I just messed with Bob. You see how he's trying to rush us?
I like it, yeah.
On that note, you guys are free to go. You do not need
I
to
think you guys
stay.
should stick around for a while. It's a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board committee reports, announcements.
I got one. So we had our Rotary Coat Drive
Okay,
last
so-
weekend. We partnered with Your Children's Bookshelf and Warm Coats for Cool Kids, and we distributed 300 coats to about 120 families. Victoria and I helped run that, and it went phenomenal.
Excellent, thank you, guys. I saw the Facebook stuff you put out. It was really cool.
You can donate too, we're looking for checks.
I'll give you a check.
Right on.
No problem, I'll buy you a Coke.
That's on record.
Yeah, it's on record.
No problem, I'll buy you some
I
Coke.
have one as well. As you guys know, it was sent out that we have these resolutions we need to vote on when we go down to the conference. Anyone opposed to voting according to their recommendations? Anybody? Any questions? No, because I got questions. So if nobody's opposed, can y'all help me talk through this so I can figure out which way we're supposed to go with this? So the first resolution talked about, sorry, Bob, the industrial construction by the schools, near the schools or whatever. And reading through this, all of the things that they stated with the health concerns and the consequences and the loud noises and all of that, really led me to go against their recommendation. Their recommendation was to adopt this one, or not to adopt it. And I feel like we need to vote to adopt it for these reasons outlined. However, I know Katie and I talked, and she said that some of the schools, if we do this, will lose funding because they depend on the funding
The
from
factories.
Yeah,
the
you can.
factories. However, my question would be, and I don't know if you know, Paul, or if I need to ask them when I get there, because the resolution committee's analyst says, the committee discussed how industrial construction does not affect most IASB members, and some small communities depend on the income from industrial facilities with space only available near schools, which would ultimately harm small communities that want these facilities. What's the percentage? Like, what percentage are by the industrial communities and what percentage are not affected? I guess I need to know. If we have more that are not affected versus more that will lose the funding, how do we weigh that out?
So I think what they're saying is that because it's a rural area, they are impacted more significantly. If you were to put this in place, they wouldn't receive the money that they need because they're in that community and they depend on those factories for funding. That's the difference. In more urban
Urban
areas,
areas, yeah.
it's not,
As dependent.
yeah.
So are we saying all rural schools depend on this? Because I'm just reading their word. Their verbiage says most and some.
So, if I may, I would say that this is my viewpoint on it. If I was a board member or a parent in any of those schools, no matter how many are affected, and a vote towards this affected our funding, regardless of the percentage, I think it's potentially taking funding away from another school. I don't know that I would be comfortable for us to use our vote against that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I get that, and that's why I was going to vote according to their recommendation, but then I couldn't overlook the health consequences and educational barriers associated with the industrial zones near schooling, including but not limited to pollution, noise, hazardous diesel exhaust, all of these other issues. So we overlooked this just for the funding? I'm just asking. That's where I'm at with that.
Can I just make sure I understand? What's being suggested is that the property tax from an industrial property won't go to the local school district that it's located in, it's gonna go to some other.
Is that what they're saying?
No, so I think the resolution is,
Can we like, maybe pull it up on the screen?
I'm sorry, I thought you guys read it. She
Oh, I
sent them
didn't.
out.
I did,
Oh.
but I just
didn't
don't
read it.
remember all the details off the top of my head. I didn't have.
So let me answer Paul's question. So I think what they're saying is if we vote if we vote for them to adopt this, then industrial or factories won't be able to build near the schools. And that will stop the funding. Am I saying that correctly? That will stop the funding that they will get from the factories.
Paul, did you read this?
No, I've not seen that.
So you
So-
haven't either?
I guess,
Paul's my expert on this,
I
he's
think
my
one of the
lawyer.
things now that you said it like that, I think one of the things I remember thinking is, and I think I alluded to this before too, when it came like to the free lunch thing. I think like, it's really important that we keep the vote within the community that needs to vote on it. It's not for us to decide what other communities are doing for their
Right.
school. Like, our community should do what our community needs to do,
I agree.
and other communities should do what they need to do.
But I don't think that pertains to this because we have to, but that's why it's a resolution. It's for the whole state. So
Yeah,
it's a-
so like
it's a-
I would say like, whatever we could do to avoid infringing upon any school's right to
But I don't
vote
think,
for
we
what-
don't have the option, like we have to vote or not vote, like that's what this is.
I know, so I'm saying like, to vote, how is it?
So the proposal is to support state legislation that would prohibit, in other words, that would create a minimum distance between this kind of factory or facility in the school.
Right.
So what they're saying is, let's have the state write a law that says these facilities have to be at least umpty 100 feet or miles, I don't know what number they come up with, they don't advocate that here. They just say there should be a minimum distance.
Yeah.
In order to enhance safety.
I think we shouldn't
Yeah.
involve ourselves in that.
Which we
because
are.
Isn't the
We're a far
EPA
distance
already
from
have certain
anything there.
standards? They should already be covered by other regulations that are in place. We have no
Should we
business.
take that, just hand vote across and see what we think on that?
I mean, I was just trying to talk it through with
That's
people
fine, that's
because
good.
for me, I
Yeah.
feel like
Gotta ask
and
questions.
it might just be me, I would lean more on the safety of the children versus the funding of a school. That's just me. I don't know. So that's
Well,
why.
I'm going selfish here again, and our schools are mostly residential areas where we really, this isn't impacting us. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I'm not looking at our school districts right now, but we're really not in any industrial area. None of our
Yeah.
schools are. So I would, you know, I know what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
get it, and I appreciate it, but for us, I don't think it's really comes into play here. I
Well,
might be
I grew
wrong.
up in a really small town, and
Huh?
I grew up in a
Yes,
really
and that
small
I
town.
could see, if they're building a
And
big
if
factory in this,
Your
you know, little
community
town.
wants a
that's-
business there, then they want a business there. You know, and I would hate to see like a
I'm sorry,
school
Jack,
board
I'm okay with this
legislation
here,
policy
but I
that people
understand
in
what you're
Wooddale
saying.
voted
Well,
on have any impact on what that community wanted to do. I don't see why.
Paul, you should have read that, because you're my legal counsel.
Yeah, Paul, you should have read it. You gotta help me out here.
So I would personally say vote to adopt as recommended.
So do not adopt, is what you're
No,
saying?
to
Because they're,
Adopt it as they're recommending.
As their
So they're
recommendation.
recommending not
I
to
would-
adopt.
okay.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
They're recommending to adopt.
no, not.
It's on the back bar.
There's a proposal to adopt it, but the staff recommendation is not to.
So
not to
this is
accept
the
the
district
proposal.
that's asking for it. Then the
And so I guess-
policy committee reviews it, and this is what they're recommending, do not adopt it, and this is the reason they're giving for not adopting what they're asking for.
I mean, I guess we need to put it to a vote, and then whatever you guys say, that's what we'll do.
So why don't we take the
Obviously,
recommendation?
because majority rules.
Let's
So-
take the recommendation. I want to take the recommendation, I think.
I say the same.
Marisol?
Take the recommendation.
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 All
I know
right.
what you're saying, but
Hey, I mean, it's up to you guys. It was one more, sorry.
If you refresh your page, it's there.
did you put it in late?
Do-do-do.
I just put it in.
Recommendation.
Oh, with the bus drivers. The one with the bus drivers, and they wanted to remove the liability from the trainers. So nobody's liable if they get into an accident? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, the trainer shouldn't be liable if they,
Yeah.
if you train me and I get in an accident, that's my fault, that's
But
not
what if
your
you
fault.
have trained me?
No, like if you trained me.
Half, H-A-L-F.
Oh, half, like that,
Like improper or not, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was just me, like, to me,
Jim's
when you talk
untrainable,
about
so let's
remove,
just go on.
when you talk
Yeah.
about remove liability, I get eerie with that because then who's responsible?
But I think their recommendation to adopt is based off of the severe shortage. And
I
so,
get that,
you know
but
what
we
I
just
mean?
can't have anybody out here driving the kids untrained, unliable.
But that's
the
not
thing.
what they're saying here. They're saying that in February of last year, they required additional behind-the-wheel hours from a nationally recognized trainer.
Uh-huh,
We don't have enough of those nationally recognized trainers to do that. In the past, it was like the transportation
Yeah.
director, it was other people that were able to do the training. They took that away last February and said, now we want it to be a national recognized
Yeah, I
trainer
read
to
that
do
part, but
What
then
they're
there's,
asking for now is that because of this bus shortage, they'd
You have
like to go
Yeah,
back
it's gotta go
to
back.
what it was so that we could have that training occur.
In-house almost.
Yeah.
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 And I've done
So
that.
that, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but from a risk management side, because I think that's your concern, who's going to be liable. If we have an in-house trainer, it's not personally the trainer who is responsible, but it would be potentially the school district as a whole. Am I correct in that? So there is still a party responsible, but you wouldn't hold a individual employee responsible for that training. Because we are utilizing them as an employee, as a
Gotcha.
resource to train so that we are able to hopefully deploy more bus drivers.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
yes,
And so as an employee, if you're, if Katie tells me you have to train these 4 bus drivers, but you're going to be liable, I'm not going to want to expose myself personally to be liable for that. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
yes.
But you know, they also have to go through a lot of things too.
Isn't
I
there
mean,
also
when
a
you
test?
train, you gotta do, I've trained bus
So-
drivers, I did it in my last district, Chilton Park. So you have to go through a bunch of stuff. Then when you gotta go to Elk Grove Village and take the test, I mean, it's hard to pass. It's a pain and it's hard. So you have, those bus drivers have to constantly try and, if you're training them, it's not just, we're gonna go take you for your license, you pass it, we're not putting people like that in. If there's a guy training them, he knows how to drive a bus and is doing it.
Okay. Paul?
I was just gonna say, I think your primary ways of having good drivers are to have testing and certification
Yeah.
up front, and not to have the risk of lawsuits at the back end. Lawsuits just don't really motivate people to do a better job.
Yeah.
What they motivate them to do is to say,
Yeah.
do I even wanna take this chance?
Yeah.
Because my fellow lawyers can make up a lawsuit out of anything.
Ain't
So
that
you
the
could be the best trainer in the world, and you'll still get sued if there's an accident.
Gotcha.
And I'll just say, here in our district, we don't have a big sample to work with, but the problem, well, we've had very, very few accidents in my 13 years, and it never had anything to do with lack of training,
Yeah.
okay? So really, this doesn't look like a wise way to improve bus driver training, would be my suggestion to you.
Gotcha. And then my only other question, maybe for Katie, or, well, Paul didn't read it.
Paul's like me now.
Is this last one, with the DCFS, CANT system, why don't they wanna use this system?
So I'm not certain, we don't have access to make a comparison of what that is, but I can tell you that, IASA, the regional offices, they're all talking about how to support ISBE being more responsible for the face law versus each individual district having to do that themselves. Right now, we have to individually report on every employee that we have. We have to go back through their work history
Right.
to see if there was ever an incident that would be an issue with employment. And that's a heavy lift for every school district. So this particular district suggested that they use the tracking system through DCFS. They're saying, no, they agree that we need to do something different to take the hard work away from the school districts, but they don't think that the DCFS tracking system is the right way to go. There's another system that they think could do it better. So that's why they're saying, do not adopt this. They're looking at other ways to be able to do that, so it doesn't fall on school districts.
Okay.
It's the right problem.
Yeah.
It's the program is not a well thought out thing, but I don't think this is the right solution to fix the problem.
Right.
That's really the rationale for not voting.
See, when he reads it, he knows what he's talking about.
That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks. Good, Jackie. It was good stuff.
I think it's good for us to
Yeah,
discuss it.
absolutely.
I'm glad you brought it
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. Okay, administrative reports, announcements, Dr. McCullough.
No announcements.
Okay, for you, Mr. Novak.
Yeah, we finished 2 FOIAs last month, and we have one more pending.
Any questions on that, guys? No? C, first quarter financial update.
Yeah, we completed the first quarter on September 30th. You can see the report there. The first page is about revenues. Revenues really come in as forecasted. You can see that it's essentially running about the same as last year, a little ahead in some places, a little behind in others. That's on the first page. On the second page, that large chart is trying to show how we're doing compared to budget. I think the key number is the one that's in the very top row that says variance percent of budget, where it says 4%, for instance, under education. It means that we've spent 96% of what the budget said we were going to spend. So although the numbers that are in that column look sort of sizable, all of them together only add up to 4% of the total budget for that fund. So if you're trying to get a sense of the scale here of what we're talking about, that first row tells you. Altogether, all the variances together are $300,000 against the total budget of something like 10 million. So you're talking about 0.3% or something like that. It's a very small number. At the bottom, you can see our fund balance. All our funds are in good condition. We report the way we do here because every fund has its own legal requirements for what it can spend on. So I want you to just know that each fund is meeting its requirements and still has a positive balance.
Any questions on that? Thank you, Paul. Consent agenda items. Anybody have any questions or anybody want anything pulled from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Could I get a roll call?
Mr. Stoltman,
Aye.
Mrs. Leva,
Aye.
Ms. Parthamos,
Aye.
Mrs. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Dye,
Aye.
Mrs. Gonzalez,
Aye.
Mr. Laudadio.
Aye. Okay, moving on, conference action items, second reading and adoption of revised policies. Policy 2-80, board member oath and conduct.
Yeah, this policy is presented the same way it was last month. There aren't any changes. What we've done here, there aren't any changes from last month when it was first presented. The changes from the prior version are that we wanted to get the correct oath of office into the policy. The same one that you all used when you were sworn in.
Any questions for you guys? Hearing none, do I get a motion to approve the
Motion.
revised policies presented 2.80? Thanks, you were ahead of time. Got a motion?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, same thing, Paul. 6-10, education philosophy and objective.
Now, again, what's presented here is the same as was presented last month. It's been changed from the prior policy to incorporate all the results of the strategic planning team from 2022.
Any questions on that one, guys? Nothing, or none? Do I get a motion to adopt the
motion.
following revised policies as presented for
Second.
6-10? Education, can I finish?
Got it. We're-
All in favor, guys?
Yeah.
I gotta talk fast? I'm talking good. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on. Approval of resolution to estimate 2020-23 tax levy. Mr. Novak.
Yes, this is the first of two steps to adopt taxes for the following school year, 24-25. The next step will occur in November. What we're doing here is creating an estimate. Because the estimate is above 5%, then that means that next month we'll have a hearing, the same process we went through last year. It's unusual for us to have an estimate that's above 5%, but inflation has been above 5% for 2 consecutive years. So really, all we're doing is getting our increase into the neighborhood of inflation. It's actually going to be less than inflation, which was 6.5. So our proposal is for about 5.1.
Any questions on that, guys, on the financial stuff? Nothing? Do I get a motion to adopt the resolution estimating monies necessary to be raised by taxation in year 2023 collected in 2024 as presented and attached?
Motion. Second.
Need a roll call for this.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Victoria?
Victoria.
Mrs. Dye?
Aye.
Mrs. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Laudadio?
Aye.
Mrs. Leyva?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Mrs. Parthamos?
Aye.
Mr. Stolman?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, C, resolution declaring an intent to use up to $5 million of working cash fund bonds and directing the notice of such intent to be published in a manner provided by law. Mr. Novak again,
So
you're up.
this is the first of several steps to take to borrow $5 million. This is the borrowing we've been talking about several times over the past 12 months. The money will be used to renovate Blackhawk School. The first place it lands the day after it starts is in the working cash fund. And so that's why the resolution is described the way that it is, but the money won't be left in the working cash fund for very long. So that's the purpose of it, to renovate Blackhawk School. I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions on this one, guys? It's $5 million. Nothing? Okay, do I get a motion to approve the attached resolution stating its intent to issue working cash fund bonds in the amount of not to exceed $5 million for the purpose set forth in the resolution and directing publication of a notice thereof? Do I get a motion? Nobody wants a motion now?
I'll motion.
Okay.
Second.
What are you laughing about?
You.
All right, roll call.
Kind of a mouthful.
Mrs. Leyva?
Aye.
Mrs. Dye?
Aye.
Mrs. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Stolman?
Aye.
Ms. Parthamos?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Laudadio?
Aye. Did I read that too fast?
It was just to give you the breath, that's all.
Right.
I didn't take a breath. Okay, moving on. Partially abate from working cash funds to transportation. Mr. Novak again.
We have a fund called the Working Cash Fund, which cannot make expenditures directly. In some cases, it can loan money to funds that need to borrow. In other cases, it can't loan, it can only make a permanent transfer. What I'm asking your permission here is to make a permanent transfer to the Transportation Fund. We're purchasing 6 buses this year. When you only have 20 buses altogether, getting 6 in 1 year is a big load. So I'm proposing this transfer to give a little extra cash to the Transportation Fund. Next month, I'll be proposing a similar one from the Education Fund for the same reason. So this is the first of 2 steps.
We have any questions? Anybody? for this
I
one?
do, is this, is it, I remember the last time we were buying buses, was it really hard to get a bus?
Yes, actually, 2 of them still aren't here yet.
You're kidding me.
No. We're expecting to get them next week, finally. Yeah. So I believe that what's
When did
going
you order
on is
them?
that June?
Really?
The manufacturer, I don't think, is delivering new buses to somebody else out there in the state. And so that somebody else is not honoring their obligation to give back the buses that they have, which is the ones that we're buying. if I were running that district, I suppose I'd understand them, I couldn't give them back, because then I couldn't get the kids to school. Anyway, they're keeping them, so the bus company can't give them to us, because they don't have them yet.
So does that kind of save us money? Or do we have any obligation to buy those buses still?
We do, but we want to buy them, because we've been keeping our fingers crossed that the buses we have will not decide they need repairs. And we've had a fortunate fall in that regard, so.
Good.
Yeah, we
Would
have
it
some
be
buses.
wiser to get another 2 buses in here?
Another what?
To get more buses?
They're coming, the buses are coming, they just have to wait until their buses get there, and then we'll
We're
get
buying
the
used
buses.
buses.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it's-
Yep,
okay.
Okay,
I'm just curious. All right.
thank you.
anything else, guys? Hearing none, do I get a motion to adopt the attached resolution to abate $100,000 from the working cash fund to the transportation fund?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, take a roll call on that.
Is that Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Parthamos?
Aye.
Mr. Stoltman?
Aye.
Mrs. Dye?
Aye.
Mrs. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mr. Laudatio?
Aye.
Mrs. Leyba?
Aye.
Okay, guys, new business, do we have anything? No new business, hearing none, we have no closed session, correct? Do I get a motion to adjourn, District 2 Board meeting at 7:32?
Motion?
Second.
Because I want to get out of here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board meeting's out.